I'm Zoe with Paranormal Extraction. I deal with the paranormal, supernatural, and metaphysical. But today, I have to tell you, I am so excited. Now, all of the books that I've done, they were good. Okay, I'm not going to say they weren't good, and I love them. But this is my absolute favorite book that I have absolutely read so far. And it's a Symmetry, a true UFO adventure by Preston Dennett. Now, Preston has written this in the second person of a lady named Dolly. Maybe she'll be able to come on today. I'm not sure. Okay, so this is a book about Dolly. And guys, listen to me. All UFOs are not bad, all right? They're not bad. Some of the abductions are not bad. This book is amazing. You have to read it. So we are gonna, I want to say one more thing here because I love him so much. Preston has 29 books out. 29! And you're gonna have to check out his YouTube site because he's absolutely amazing. So we're gonna go meet Preston right now. Maybe we'll see Dolly, gosh, I hope so, but I don't know, okay? So thank you so much for watching. Here we go. Hey, Preston.
Hey.
Oh my God. Here, guys, look at the cup. Please pan in on the book. I want everyone to see this. Now, you can get this on Amazon, okay? And I've had a lot of people, believe it or not, already buy this book. Yeah, because I talk about it everywhere. So, Preston, why don't you, okay, so you have 29 books, okay, 29 books out, and what is your YouTube channel? What is it called?
It's called UFOs and the Paranormal with Preston Dennett. I think if you just punch in my name, it should take you there. Super excited about it. It's growing fast. It's still quite new. But yeah, I'm having fun putting out, my research.
Well, it's absolutely amazing, and you're amazing. But let's talk about the Symmetry, a true UFO adventure, because this is actually really a true story of Dolly that started at age 3, correct?
Well, that's when she started to have some good recall, but she does have some experiences that she remembers all the way down to 10 months, actually. Which that may sound incredible, but this is something I have heard from other contactees. They often have very vivid memories all the way down to, a year old. They're often very precocious. Many of them have eidetic memories, photographic memories, which Dolly does. So yeah, her first memory is actually at 10 months when she recalls being floated up out of her crib, the room filling with light. That's all she really remembers, but it was vivid enough that she never forgot it.
Wow, okay, so now I just want to ask you this. They call them, abductees, or, and you're calling this what? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Yeah, Dolly does not like that word, abductee. She does not feel it's accurate.
Okay.
I have to tell you, a lot of the people I've talked to feel the same way. Not
Yes.
all, but yeah, she calls herself a contactee.
Okay.
Or an experiencer. She doesn't use the word abduction. I stopped using that years ago. I call them onboard UFO encounters, which is a less charged word, if you know what I mean.
Yes. So she started having these at 10 months, and she actually remembers and recalls. She didn't actually recall all of it in the beginning, correct?
That's right. Yeah, she was having these experiences but couldn't quite connect the dots. She was having all kinds of memories of going places at night, being inside these craft, being on what appeared to be another planet, but it was so different from anything she'd experienced that she really did not know how to categorize it. Didn't really have anyone to talk to about it. Her mother was not wanting to hear these things, that, people were coming to her room at night. And her mother was actually quite perturbed by all these events. Starting at around age 2, Dolly started disappearing from the house. In fact, there was an incident at age 2 when Dolly had just been put down for a nap, and her mom went in to check on her, and she was not in her crib. And they searched the whole house.
I remember this. This has happened several times, but let's start with this one.
yeah, this is the one that really kind of set the stage for what would happen to her later. So they searched the house, couldn't find her, searched the yard, but, it was impossible that she got out because, she couldn't even reach the doorknobs. I mean, this made no sense. And they ended up calling the police, and this commenced a 2-hour search for her. And finally, they got a call from a local convenience store some 6 miles away.
Yeah.
Right? The U Totem, it was called.
Yeah.
And Dolly was there. And they, the police took her parents to the store. And they asked her what happened. And Dolly could not say. She was too young. She had no memory of what had happened. She was just dressed in her underwear. Her feet were fine. I mean, there was no evidence that she had walked like 6 miles or anything.
Right.
So this was a mystery, and this really caused them to, put new locks on all the doors, double locks on the windows. They bought guard dogs, and really tried to keep a close watch on Dolly, but it kept happening.
Yes.
Over and over.
Yes, they did. Actually, I mean, they got several dogs after a while. I mean, and then they actually, as we move on, the closet. I love the closet where she liked to hide. She wanted to get up on the top of the closet, and she couldn't. There's no way she could have. But then she got all the way up there. I know that's further down the line that we can talk about. But so yes, she did go missing. And this is actually the first story I've heard where someone has actually gone in a room to find a person, let's just say, and that they're not there. This is the first time I've heard this. And this happened many, many times.
Yeah, I have heard this from other people. I just interviewed a guy from France who had a similar experience. He was walking on his way to school and arrived 3 hours late. He was not accounted for. There are many cases where people are not where they're supposed to be, which just goes to say that this is not a psychological experience. This is not sleep paralysis or anything like that. But yeah, Dolly continued to have these missing time experiences. And going back to what you said with the closet experience, which was at a very young age, because I had asked Dolly, have you ever experienced paranormal events?
Right.
And she said yes. She had some experiences with telekinesis and precognition. She was having all of these visions and psychic events at a very young age. Mm-hmm. And on a whim, I kind of asked her, have you ever levitated? Because I had talked to a number of contactees who had spontaneous levitation experiences. Human levitation, floating up. This is not a beam of light from a UFO or anything like this. This is just someone spontaneously levitating. And Dolly said, well, yeah, actually I did. And she described how she was just playing around in the house and there was a closet shelf that was far beyond her reach. And she was very curious what was up there. And one, day she decided, I'm just going to go up there.
Well, and, didn't she like to hide from her parents too? Or, so she liked to get away because her mom was pretty tough to deal with.
Yeah, she was a little spitfire. If Dolly could get in trouble, she would.
Yeah.
I mean, she was into everything. So she saw this shelf and really concentrated on it, and to her absolute amazement, actually floated right up into it as if some force had lifted her up. And she couldn't explain it. She didn't know what levitation was at this time. But she quickly got up into this little shelf and hid in the corner and started giggling. And her mother comes running in and searching all over for her, but can't never even thought of looking up on the shelf because there's no way.
Yeah, she could get up there. Right.
Yeah, but did find her, and that, of course, flipped her out. And she ended up calling, Dolly's father home and caused a big to-do. Was it the first time? I mean, it was the first time, but it happened again after that.
Yes.
So Dolly was always getting into trouble, and it just caused more and more strife between her and her mom, because her mom didn't like this. Understandably, her little kid was disappearing.
Yeah.
And by this time, Dolly had a little brother who was a newborn. So Dolly's mother is trying to deal with all of this, and now Dolly's continuing to disappear. So it was quite hard for both of them.
Yes, it was, but I gotta tell you, my favorite, I'm gonna backtrack here, is when she was baby, and so I guess she was scared to go up. You can tell me if I'm wrong or not, but she used to stick her foot through the crib because she wasn't sure she wanted to go up or she didn't want to go up. So she stuck her foot through the crib as an anchor.
Yeah. This really puzzled our parents. Whenever they put her down, she'd quickly stick her leg through the bars.
Yeah, I know. Actually, just not her leg. Her whole foot was sideways, so it couldn't come out of the bars of the crib.
Yeah, it was such a weird sort of eccentricity, they thought, that they took pictures of it.
It's in your book. There's
right.
a picture in your book of it. Yeah, so
right.
As she got a little bit older, okay, because this is like she's doing this, we're talking about being a baby. When did she start actually remembering? Because she couldn't really remember at first, right? Or was she?
I'd say it started really around 6 when she had a really profound experience. She was out in the front yard, just watching the clouds, laying under the huge ficus tree. They had just gone to see Mary Poppins a few days earlier, and she looks up in the sky and sees what she thought at first it was an umbrella come floating down. And she's looking at it and realizes this is not an umbrella.
Right.
And next thing she knows, she's in a different place. And she didn't quite connect that this was a craft, but she was. She now remembers being inside a rounded room. Right. There was a very lovely creature in there. I don't really like that word, but
Mama.
A woman, yeah, who says, "Hi, I'm,
Mama."
Yeah, Dolly's like, "Who are you?" And she says, "You can call me Mama."
Right.
And Dolly looks at her, and she's an unusual looking person. Bald, large head, huge eyes, wearing a sort of smock, but very beautiful, very gentle, very wise. And Mama explained to Dolly that, I know you, you know me, we're going to be in contact for a while. You have no reason to fear. Mm-hmm. I love you. And just sort of got her to open up a little bit. And Dolly has always remembered this, but didn't think E.T. or UFO, certainly. And following this, she would have very vivid nighttime experiences where she was inside these craft, seeing little people, grays as we would think of them. But she didn't think of them as that way. She just thought they were people. Little kids don't really care if you look a little different.
Right.
Especially if, keeps happening. And she tried to tell people, but they kind of looked at her like she was crazy.
Right.
And she's like, well, maybe I am dreaming. Maybe I am crazy.
Yeah.
But she remembers going to this other place where it was not Earth. There were very tall trees, flowers as tall as adults, other children there, grays. Mama was always there. And they'd take her up into this tree, this huge, phantasmagorically large tree.
Now, this is when they actually flew to a different planet.
Yes.
Where, okay, so they actually took her to this is one of the experiences, to another planet where, like you're talking about, these beautiful flora that was quite different than what was on Earth. It was larger and more lush. Am I correct on that?
Yes, and the gravity was lighter. And the first thing Dolly did when she got there was start jumping up and down because you could rise, 10, 20 feet into the air. So this was a very joyous experience for her. She knew these weren't dreams because they were very consistent. She was awake. So it was very hard for her to categorize. And she was being taught all about morality and ethics with a group of other young girls in this sort of treehouse. And then she'd come back and she'd tell people, like, I'm having these experiences, but I'm like, oh, you're dreaming. She's like, okay. And she did see UFOs and had missing time following this. She lived in this Florida Everglades, so she was always outside running around.
Right.
Again, getting into trouble. I mean, by the time she was 14 years old, she had been stung all over her body by hornets, had been bitten by a rattlesnake.
Unbelievable.
Had been struck by lightning.
Right.
I mean, she was just, Spitfire, I guess.
Okay, let me backtrack on this, back to the treehouse thing. What amazed me about that is, so she's in this another world, planet, and they take her there to basically, and there's this treehouse of just girls because boys went to a separate treehouse. So she was there to get educated, right?
Correct. Yeah, this was all very much about learning.
Okay, so quite extensively.
Yes, it started with morality and ethics, but very quickly moved to, hard sciences, biology, astronomy, physics, these sort of things, history. So they were very intent on teaching her, which actually caused her some problems on Earth. Because
in school she was bored as heck in school. Okay, and you can jump in here and tell me if I'm wrong, but because it was boring to her what they were teaching, so they actually would remove her from the classroom and let her go to the library.
Yeah, because if you remember grade school, it was days of the week and the months of the year and simple arithmetic and just spelling. And by the time Dolly, was 9 years old, she was already reading at a college level and had already learned all the basics of this. So this was absolutely frustrating for her. She could not stand just sitting there being taught things she had learned long ago. Her family was also very intelligent. Her father was quite advanced as well. They had a library in their house. She'd read all the books there. So her teachers became so frustrated with her, they just kicked her out of class, and she basically spent most of her school years all the way through high school in the library. And
right, I just think that is so funny that they just let her go, but she learned all of this in this kind of treehouse place. Now they also did this telepathically.
Yes.
They speak telepathically, and I'm right on that one.
Correct. And when she experienced telepathy, it was very early on, but going there to this learning planet, she'd sometimes not only stay for all day, but days at sometimes. And they put her back just maybe minutes or hours afterwards.
Right.
With all the telepathy, real quick, is she started to exhibit that ability here on Earth. Because when someone experiences telepathy constantly and for a long period of time, it develops that ability. And so she was starting to do mind reading with the people at home and at school, and this caused people to look at her kind of sideways, like she's reading their minds. She knows what she's thinking, and that would scare people.
Of course, of course. Okay, so we just talked about. I had a question. I hate that when that happens because I'm trying to go, as each level goes. So they took her mainly to this tree house to learn. And for how long was that? Because I really didn't get that. How long was she there learning?
This went on, it would go for hours, sometimes days, but all the way up to, it's continuing. But she really didn't connect it until she had a really profound experience at age 14. Because by that age, she knew what UFOs were, and she began to wonder, could this possibly be what I'm experiencing? Next time this happens, I am going to remember. She'd see one, and then she'd have missing time. She'd find herself in the yard or in her house.
Yeah, and her clothes. Let's talk about the clothes thing. How her clothes would be inside out or, inside out or a sock missing or things like that when they actually put her back, right?
Yeah, this was driving her a little bit nutty. She's like, I think I might be going crazy. And then at age 14, age 14, it's 1973. She's in her home in the Everglades, staying up real late, watching the stars through a telescope. And it's like pushing 1 a.m. and her father finds out she's, still awake. She's like, he's like, go to bed. What are you doing? There's school tomorrow. And she goes to bed and she never sleeps much. A lot of contactees sleep only 2, 3, 4 hours a night. And she's certainly that way. And so she's just sitting there in bed looking out the window and sees all these star-like objects, I should say, moving around. And not just a few, a horde, a huge bunch of them, 50, 100. And her eyes go wide. She's like, oh no, look at this. And suddenly a couple of them drop down. They're darting all over the place. And a couple of them drop down right over her house. One, actually. One goes the other direction. And it's right in her backyard. And the trees are swaying. And she's looking at it. It's a craft. She can see this is metallic. And she's like, okay, now this is my opportunity. I am not going to forget this. Because every time this happens, I faint. And so she's looking up at it. And she can see windows. And through the windows, she sees little people. And they're not human. And she gets quite a shock. It's quite frightening to her to see these little bald people with big dark eyes and gray skin. And she's like, oh no, and turns to hide under her bed.
Right.
And at this point, the room fills with light. She wakes up. It's morning. It's not her pajamas. It's someone else's pajamas. And they're on back. Inside out and backwards. She's hardly even wearing them. And she's like, oh no. So now she knows for sure something happened. And she's pretty darn sure she was taken inside this thing. But she can't remember, and she's furious. And she quickly, gets cleaned up and goes downstairs. Her mom's in the kitchen. She's like, Mom, did you see anything last night? Weird lights. And her mom knows what's coming at this point. She says, no, don't want to talk about it.
Right.
Shut up.
Constantly, her mom used to say that.
And this just is hysterical. And then the radio comes on and says, UFOs were sighted over, Miami or the Dayland Mall area. 2 police officers. And Dolly's like, oh my gosh, confirmation.
Right.
So now she's just doing backflips about this and her screaming, and her mom turns around and says, no, shut up, get out of the kitchen right now. And Dolly is dejected and really upset and runs into her dad, who fortunately was home. He rarely was home. He's in the military.
Right, and she had a pretty close relationship with him because of speaking with him about this.
Correct. Yeah, and he had heard everything, and he said, Dolly, I want you to go meditate. So she did. She sat down in the bathroom and meditated and started to remember. And it freaked her out. She went to school, and her best friend's like, I saw a UFO. Turned out to be the same night.
Right.
So Dolly's like, more confirmation. And Dolly's head is just, she's got a huge headache. She's got all these memories coming around. And,
oh, see, now your phone went off. I told you mine might.
Sorry about that.
No, that's all right. There you go.
But at any rate, Dolly's teacher saw that she had a headache. And he's like, here, let me take you into my office. I've got a biofeedback machine. It's attached to a little train. If you can put your brain, your brain waves on delta, or theta, what is it? Whatever.
Yeah, there's theta, delta, and
gamma.
Beta.
Yeah.
Okay.
Theta, delta, gamma.
Yeah.
Well, at any rate, he thought, this could help you. And so she hooks up herself, the little electrodes to this biofeedback machine, and immediately, it's attached to a little train. If you can go into theta, I guess, the train will move. And it starts moving right away. And as soon as that happens, all these memories start, again, flooding into her. And she whips off the electrode. She's like, I gotta go.
Yeah.
Because she was about to, puke from all this. And she ended up walking home from school, taking, the RTD bus, the public transit. And as she just relived the whole experience, she recalled what happened, all of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, I know that her father was very good to her about this. And he also was in the military, but he took her to a special place in the military with other children that had gifts, and to be tested for remote viewing, things like that. And I guess she just blew him away.
Yeah, that was prior to this, because Dolly was, saying, our uncle was in a car accident, or this is going to happen, and it would, or just constantly predicting things.
Right.
And with, had telekinesis and so he took her to what we now know is probably MK Ultra, where they, test children for psychic abilities and perhaps use them as for remote viewing and psychic spying, and she scored off the charts, and she was excellent at it, and they really, really wanted to work with her, but Dolly's father was informed that this was not a good idea.
Took her out.
Yes, quickly yanked her from that program.
Yes.
And at that point, he realized how unusual she was, and in hindsight, Dolly realized that he knew she was probably a contactee as well. So he trained her in self-defense, started teaching her astronomy, and really sort of ramped up her education.
Now, I find it very interesting that, somebody from the military actually knew about this or believed her about this. You would think that that would be the worst place or the worst person to talk to, but obviously he must have known about it, right? Yeah,
he sure did, because as it turns out, and this is really no surprise to me or any researchers, Dolly's a generational contactee. People who are having onboard experiences regularly almost always come from a family line of contactees, because this is a phenomenon that tracks families, genetic lines.
Right.
So her father was a contactee, and when Dolly remembered being taken on board, her father started asking her about it. It's like, what happened? She did not want to tell him. And he says, okay, listen, I need you to know something. When I was a little boy, I was, I think, around the same age, he was 15, I had an experience, with your uncle, me, my brother. We had a UFO drop over our heads. I couldn't move. I was pulled up inside. There were grays. They told me all this stuff. Said asked me what I wanted to do with my life. He was an architect, so they sort of encouraged that. And he didn't go into too much detail. But when he said that, Dolly's like, okay, yes, Dad, they took me on board.
Right.
And what Dolly remembers is amazing. Because she says that, when she saw the UFO in her backyard, the room fills with light. She now remembered consciously this beam of light coming down. 2 little grays came, grabbed her, pulled her on board, took her inside this craft, and there was Mama, this tall gray, looking at her, and Mama says, "Do you remember me?" And Dolly's looking at her with amazement because she did remember.
Mm-hmm.
All these memories came flooding back, and she promptly puked. It was a very emotional experience for her.
Yeah.
So they cleaned her up and got her decontaminated.
Right. That's the other thing I wanted to talk about is they they have a process of decontamination, removing the clothes that they're in, putting them in other clothes. And am I correct on that?
Yes.
After the decontamination. And then they do a physical on you. Okay. That was not real clear to me on what kind of physical was it.
Yeah. They will basically just check up on people and look them over with what we would call like X-ray type devices, and perhaps a little more extensive if you have something that needs fixing.
Right.
Or something that's out of balance. But yeah, they'll check up on your nervous system, your blood, everything, make sure is copacetic. And this is probably the most unpleasant part of an onboard UFO encounter. And this is where a lot of people do have an extraordinary amount of fear, ramping up to outright terror.
Yeah, like the guy who tried to come at her and try to kill her, and and then he ran into a corner, and they were just like, okay, this isn't gonna work. I mean, she was trying to tell him to calm down and all this stuff because she was very good at that. And they get rid of that guy. I mean, they had to put him back to where he came from because he was freaking out so bad.
Exactly. Once Dolly, after age 14, after this experience of being taken on board, she fully remembered. And they were delighted because most people just don't have that strength. But if you know Dolly, she's very strong. She's not afraid of anything. I mean, she will jump off that cliff into the water, or she'll swim out in the waves, she'll climb that tree. So she's just that kind of person, which I think is partly the way her dad brought her up, part of the location where she grew up. So she was very much remembering, and they took advantage of that and started taking her a lot, and started working with them, learning how to fly these craft.
Yeah, but wait a second. She also had a room. She
Yes.
had her own. So let's just kind of take it a little slower here. She also had her own room that they had for her, where she could sleep and she could eat or get something to drink. I'm correct on that. On board, she also had that, right?
Yes, and I was so delighted to hear that because I'd heard that from only a few other contactees, those who had gotten over the fear barrier, those who had woken up, those who had moved past that.
Oh wait, Dolly's coming on.
Oh yay.
Oh my God. Okay, I just admitted her. So I guess we'll just see what happened. Oh, there she is, but she's in a small screen. This is what I was telling you about.
That's him.
Oh, that's you. Okay, no, she's not on yet. Sorry. We just.
Oh yeah, I am. Here I am.
Oh my God. Okay.
All right.
Can't see ya.
You can't see me. Okay, let me check my camera. Hold on.
Oh yay, I'm so glad you got in.
Okay.
Me too.
How do I do this in a split screen, Preston, of just you and her?
I think it will come up as the person is talking.
Okay, Dolly. Let's see.
If in the upper right corner, there's this little thing that says view.
Yeah,
Click on that, and that gives you the options.
okay.
Gallery.
Gallery? Is that where I go, Preston?
Yeah, you can either click on speaker, and that will bring up the person who's talking, or gallery, and that will bring up people.
Boom.
Oh, okay. We don't need to see me, so I don't know how to click out of that.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Okay. Well, anyways,
Beautiful.
all I can do is 3 heads here, which I don't like to do. So
It's all
I'm
right.
just trying to close that out, and I don't have my glasses on, so I don't know how to click out of that. So, anyways, I guess we'll just have 3 heads on here. Because I want to just have 2 of you guys, you know, one of her and one, but for some reason I can't get out.
Yeah, it's got 3 options. If you leave it on speaker, that should just bring one person up who's ever talking. The one
Okay.
right below it is gallery,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
and that will bring people up side by side.
Yeah, the gallery I'm on, I do, but it's side
Just
by
go
side
to-
of 3 of us.
You go to speaker. See
I'm
what
just
happens.
gonna go to speaker.
Just see what happens.
Okay, let's go to speaker.
Now,
Okay,
Dolly,
there you are. Then I'll switch over to her.
let her when she's talking. See.
Okay, so, oh my God, Dolly.
Hey.
Okay, I just switched on, I'm trying to click on her, but she's not coming on.
So just go back to the other one. And that'll be fine.
I think if Dolly speaks, she should.
I'm gonna start talking and see if I can get on this.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
there you go. Oh my
See?
God. Oh my God. Lady, you are, I am so, oh my God. What can I say about you? Like, unbelievably I just feel so just blessed to be able to talk to you. And I know I'm kind of turned a different way. We didn't have a chance to discuss how this goes, but I just wanted to let you know that this is, out of all the authors, best-selling authors, this is the best book I've ever read.
Oh my gosh.
I can totally relate to you 100% on this.
Wow.
I believe every word. I have my friends now have your book, and we want to go.
Awesome.
Just to let you know, I've actually talked to you in my subconscious mind and said, Dolly, I want to go.
Well,
So,
that's one of the reasons I was trying to get here so fast. Something told me to show up.
yeah,
Yeah.
so, and I also wanted to just thank you that you took so long to be able to get this out and actually have Preston do this second person for you because, I mean, I'm actually speechless that you're on
Oh.
here right now.
Oh, wow.
He's been talking about the whole thing. Preston, where are we at on this?
We just kind of were wrapping up her experience at age 14,
Okay,
where she was taken on board. We didn't really get through the whole 14, that experience because Dolly can tell you what happened when she was taken on board after talking to Mama,
right.
having an exam, being decontaminated, and then that's when her adventure really began.
Right, that's when she had the room and all this, and
Yeah.
she was part of the ship. Now, there's one thing that I did forget to ask you, is the different types of beings that were on the ship. I mean, she talked about the small ones that were kind of robotic. Dolly, you may want to come in. The taller ones that were, then there was a white one, Talera, I think is the ship. I'm all over
Talata is the ship. Yes.
Right. Talera is a ship, and then you had Mama.
Right.
Okay, so what was I asking? I mean, I'm just,
Just ask about the different types of beings, right?
Yes, the different types of
Okay.
beings. Yes, that's what I want everyone to know, because this is such good stuff. This is positive. this is a wonderful experience that nobody ever talks about. You hardly ever hear what you're talking about. So explain about these different beings that were on the ship.
All right, well, I will start with the AI Greys. They are autonomous, intelligent, very biological android type beings. They were created. They do not have full consciousness, but they are able to learn. They're very intelligent. They do the grunt work for everybody. Gamma radiation in space is a deadly serious issue for everybody. And ETs, all of them, all the different ethnicities of them, prefer to be in a biosphere, you know, with the electromagnetic shield around them to protect them from it. So if there's a long period of time that has to be in space, they send the AI out. Then there's the type of gray that are kind of troll-sized, you know?
Right.
And they're very stocky, and they have a bluish gray tint to their skin, and they're very sweet. And I do believe that they are the ones that developed the AI grays. They're responsible for them.
Right.
Then there's the grays who are kind of mid-sized, and they have 3 fingers, and they use prosthesis on their fingers when they're doing fine detailed work. They're about 5 feet tall. They're very hands-on, busy types, and you don't see them on this planet very often. It's the tall grays that you see other than the AI, and that would be like Mama. She's 6'2".
Wow.
I've seen a tall grays that are up to almost 7 feet tall. They get very tall. I saw one that was almost 8 feet. Mama's about 800 and some odd years old. She's still living. She's very healthy. I look older than her now.
You're so funny.
It shocked me the day it happened. I was looking at her and I was thinking, what's wrong with this picture, you know? She just laughed at me. She thought that was funny. Then there are what you all would call Nordics, you know, like tall whites. And these guys grow for a long time, and the older they get, the more they grow. They're tall, tall, tall. They're very serious beings. They're protective of their own, they're young. They're very Valkyria-like in some respects toward their children, you know, don't mess with my kids. They are the scientists of ET, and they spend a lot of time on this planet. And they watch what's going on here. It's becoming critical, and they've been around for a long time watching.
Aren't they kind of like the light workers? And I'm going to butt in just for a second. I've always said that I'm a Nordic hybrid alien. Always. People ask me why. It's because of my blood type. It's the hair and the eyes and the green eyes or whatever.
Do you have A blood?
I have that RH negative.
Okay.
I think that's what it's called.
Yeah. You don't know what letter?
No.
Your blood? I'm
Sorry.
A neg. If you're Nordic, you got A neg.
Okay.
All Swedes, all Nordics, all have A blood. All of us.
Okay.
Okay.
I just wanted to jump in there on that one because, kind of my experiences about this stuff. Of course, I don't remember any of it. Bummer.
Yeah.
So you've seen those.
Right. I've also seen Anunnaki. They're not around us so much anymore. They were at the beginning of our history. They are pretty big guys, you know. They can get very tall as well. And they're very Amazon-looking-ish, you know. They're very powerfully built creatures. And they have wings. And,
yes, you were saying that with the feathers and...
it's not really feathers. It's kind of like, have you ever seen dragonfly wings?
I know what you're talking about.
It's kind of like that. They're hairy like a wing, like a feather. Okay, they have the little hairs in them, and they're dense, but it's not like a duck or a bird. But it's a dragonfly type thing. And the top 2 go in an angle like this, and the bottom 2 go in an angle like this. You know, so it looks like, 2 forks on their back.
So we know where the hieroglyphs come from.
Some of them, yes. The Babylonian ones, yes.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
the Egyptian ones are different. what you're talking about is the Ra, who is a bird-like creature. That exists, okay? And then there's Horus, who's a dog-like humanoid type, and they also exist. I've seen them. They're very big, both of them. The Horus types are very dark, chocolate colored, you know. I've seen some that are very dark, brownish colored as well. Like that's their ethnic variability. You know, they go from dark chocolate to dark brown. They are, they're cool. They have clawed hands. You know, they have really long fingers, but they're clawed. And they wear they wear a type of shoe when they have to, but it's open-toed to accommodate their feet. And they wear they still to this day wear like a type of an Egyptian skirt. You know, it's like a kilt.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. You talked about that.
They wear jewelry on their arms. They wear sometimes have a ring in their ear. Their ears are straight up like a German Shepherd. You know, and their mouth is pretty cool.
Yeah. I love the ones that you walked by and they just stared at you.
Yeah, it was like, just keep moving. You can look, but don't stop. Yeah,
exactly. So it was kind of like they didn't want to have anything to do with you.
Well, I think they were doing something at the time and they didn't need me to interfere with them. So
okay, was that what you thought?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've seen cat types that actually stand bipedal.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that was bizarre.
And they purr. All cats purr. I realize that every cat that I've ever come in contact in my life, from here to there, they all purr. Every last one of them. And I find that interesting. You know, tigers chuff, and they kind of do that too. They do that sound, you know, when they want your attention. And they weren't real communicative with me, but they let me approach, you know. And I got to, you know, almost touch her, but you know, they're male and female as well. Every ET that I've met is male or female, okay? That they're part of the human genome, and so they dime out that way, okay? Right. We are all part of that genome. We're related mostly to the grays and the tall whites, but yeah, that's why we could breed back with them, you know?
Right.
I've seen some that look like, y'all call them Palladians. That is not what they go by in their head, and I never knew that word until about 6-7 years ago. But they look like the Vishnu, you know, but like Shiva, you know. They have really dark blue skin.
Oh, wow.
And they're really, really standoffish, okay? You don't see them much. You know, when you do, you're like, I've seen a reptilian once. I was in the Everglades, and I was working on Indian burial mound, and he sort of come up behind me, and he had lunch on his mind, and I ran like hell, and I got away from him. I was very young when that happened, and I realized since then, after all my experiences and things that I've learned, that they're most likely, I'm 99% sure that they're from Earth. They came from the dinosaur age. They're evolving, and they're sentient, and they are intelligent as all get out. I reserve all judgment on them for that reason, okay? And I know that when we're rescued, they're rescued. They will take them with them, okay? They will relocate them. They're not going to let them die. So,
right now,
whatever it is.
I know that when you were on this ship, and we were kind of going through it with Preston on this, kind of where, you know, you went in and then you learned in the treehouse, and then so now you're just on the ship, and we're talking about, is it Talera?
Talera, yes.
And
yes.
she is the intelligence. He is the intelligence of the ship.
Correct. He's a disembodied, non-corporeal, fifth-dimensional being who's capable of moving into that ship, which is kind of biological itself, okay? The ship was made to incorporate him, to let him come in and indwell it.
Right.
While your body, he indwells that craft, and he becomes the craft.
Right.
All ET craft are driven that way. They all have an entity indwelling them, all of them. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So every time after you came up, and I'm going to bring this up again. I already talked to Preston about this. That you were contaminated and put into different clothing. My experience of where I go is I go up this kind of whatever elevator thing that's clear glass, and I am decontaminated, but I'm also put in just into a like a clear suit that covers my whole body. Like every part of me is this clear, and I have actually no clothes on it under it, but from my feet all the way up, and then the door opens up after I'm decontaminated. But that's what has happened to me.
Okay.
I think you talked about that in your book, that had happened, or
the day that when I was 14, I was so nervous about everything and upset and freaking out that I threw up.
right. That's what. Yeah, Preston was telling us that.
Yeah, I had puked, and I lifted my top and threw up into my shirt so it wouldn't go everywhere. And I was pretty gross, and they helped me get out of it. And I'm pretty sure they threw my clothes away. That's why I ended up in somebody else's. That's one of my reasons for it. I don't think they care what you put on, just as long as you put something on after the trip. And then I had to be decontaminated, really decontaminated. But every time I do go up, I am decontaminated. I go through a process when I get on board. I'm already clean. I know better than to go up nasty, dirty.
Yeah.
And I'm wearing clean clothes. I'm wearing socks, no shoes, that kind of thing. And I go to a decontamination chamber and I'm decontaminated. And yes, my clothes are put aside. I'm not allowed to leave them in my room. They have to stay in that chamber. I wear a jumpsuit. Okay. When I was younger, I just wore, it's like a smock, like a little dress.
Yeah.
And so that's what I wore when I was young. When I was on the planet, we were given the planet, the weather there is just, it's like 70 to 72 degrees pretty much certain times of the year.
Now, is this
Constant.
are we talking about their planet? Because there's a
Yes.
multitude of different planets we're talking about
Correct.
here.
Right.
So this
At
is
the learning
okay.
the one that's in the Iran cluster.
Yeah, okay.
And so I wore, day clothes, stuff to romp around in and do stuff. But when I'm on the ship, I wear a one-piece jumpsuit at all times.
Okay.
And if I have to go potty or whatever, it comes off. I clean up. I do what I have to do, and then I put on another one. I am not allowed to wear it again. And they recycle all their suits. So,
Okay.
we go through them pretty quick.
Okay, so after this learning phase, they started to take you to other planets.
Yes.
And teach you about the solar system, okay, what you were
Correct.
already taught. And Preston and I went through this whole thing about the education, and we got pretty much got up to about 14, and I think it went further than your father, and it goes further than that when you remember. But now, since you have your room and you're doing what you're talking about right now, they actually took you to other planets.
Yes,
which was
I did a lot of that for a
fascinating.
couple of reasons. Yeah. Well, I was learning to fly, and part of my training was the first reason I went everywhere all the time was they were teaching me destinations. In other words, I was learning the different points that I would be going to, the different places, and I was learning to memorize them all. They're all in my head. So that's one of the reasons. And it took me 4 years to learn to fly. So there's a lot I had to cover, okay?
Yeah.
Also, astronomy and understanding solar systems and how the universe is built and the process by which a star exists, its lifetime.
Yes.
The mathematics of orbits, the mathematics of movement through space, because we're not stationary in space at all. We're moving. Our solar system is in constant movement, and it's moving in a certain direction, okay? And then around us, inside the galaxy that we're on one of the outer arms, a little bit closer into the galaxy than they thought of at first, but that's what I was taught. We're closer into that arm. So the galaxy is rotating, okay? It rotates in a plane. We're all in an elliptical plane together. In other words, we can only see so far from a certain vantage point, and the galaxy's in the same position, okay? Everything in this galaxy revolves except one constellation that I know of in an elliptical plane. I had to learn all this stuff. Because when you're flying, you have to navigate, okay?
Right.
I learned about the physics of energy, okay, and how our system works. I had to learn about graviton wave technology. I had to learn about electricity. I had to learn, it's just endless what I had to learn. It's a lot, okay? I was also learning about, I learned morality when I was young, and
Yes.
It's sort of a continuing thing. I'm evolving in it. I'm not as far along as they are. I still have issues, okay?
Okay.
So I run into stuff.
Okay.
And, yeah. Well, I'm a little bit of a Nordic, okay?
Yeah.
And, I can be difficult at times. Preston can tell you that.
Oh, you've actually been that way since you've been a child.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, we got into that.
Yeah, we did, huh, Preston?
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we really
I'm a
did.
little spitfire, yeah. And I really am afraid of nothing, which is kind of weird when I think about it. Because I hear other people, and I'm like, really, seriously, you're afraid to run into that burning building? I'm not.
I know, Preston was saying that. Yeah. Yeah, right, Preston? I mean,
No, that's right. And going back to what Dolly's being taught about, astronomy and magnetic fields, that turned out to be a very important lesson for her, because ultimately that's what she's focused on, was learning how to fly these crafts. So she had to know about magnetic fields.
Yeah, it's a lot more complicated than I relate to you. And the only reason being is you would never grasp what I say. I wonder about...
actually, you know what? In your book, Preston did a really good job on, you definitely grasp what you're saying.
Okay.
In the book. He's done it so well where you can understand everything. Everything.
Okay. That's good.
Okay, so I know that you went to all these different planets, and one in particular there was nothing really existing on there because of something that happened.
The star had evolved into a red dwarf, and it was engulfing all the planets in that system. It was at the end of its life cycle.
Yeah.
And it was getting ready to supernova, and I got to watch that process. And I actually got to be present, even though it happened umpteen years behind us. I got to be present for it. They took me through to see it live. And what's funny is when I learned that, they timed it just right, because about 3 or 4 months after I came back, we actually witnessed it from here. And I got to see it again, through a telescope. It was very, very, very surreal to me. Yeah.
And I know that Preston talks quite a bit about the different planets, which I know we can't really get into because we'd be on here for 3 hours, but it is in the book. It is in the book.
Yes, ma'am.
The other thing that we're talking about here that I don't think anyone really knows about, and I think is really important, is flying the craft. And they actually wanted you to learn to fly this craft. And so you had to go into a seat with another one sitting next to you. And there was an arm piece that you had to use.
Right, it grounds me to, there are 2 pads on the floor of the chair, in front of the chair. And I put my feet on them because I'm grounding electrically to them. I cannot take the risk. It's sort of like an augmented, I'm going to give you technical terms and I don't want to. I'm going to, Preston, I'm going to have a senior moment. It's the cage.
Faraday,
thank you. It's
Okay, now there you go, Preston. Preston, actually,
my brain is reeling right now.
Yeah, well, I know mine is reeling too. That's why Preston, we'll have Preston get on, right, Preston? You can explain it all.
Yeah, he remembers. I'm like out there today. Piloting the craft puts me in 3 different situations at one time. Physically, I'm in an electromagnetic field, and it is dangerous. If I move in that field, I'll get zapped. It'll electrify me instantly if I move, because it's swirling around me, and if I hold stationary, I'm good. But the minute I try to touch something, boom, I'm electrocuted. I'm operating, when I go interdimensional, when I'm creating an interdimensional gateway, I'm really in trouble. It's dangerous for me, because I've got a ball that electromagnetically amplifies, and inside that is where the energy comes to create that gateway. And then I'm really in trouble. So I have to be grounded at all times. I still take on a certain amount of electricity from it. I'm still sizzling with it sometimes. I can see it moving across my skin every now and then. I kind of glow every now and then, especially when I'm moving a gateway open. But yeah.
And you always have
really cool.
And you always have like a pilot sitting next to you. You're the point, whatever. You have someone sitting next to you. So
that very first time I ever flew, yes, I did have one, and because I needed an assist. But once I learned how to fly, I'm completely in control with Talata. Nobody else is helping me. I am the pilot.
Right, and so that's what they had you do, and so now we're getting into, as you're piloting, you're visiting these other planets. Now, the most important thing is about this whole thing is that these are actually beings of light, beings of goodness, spirituality, ethics, the world, being concerned about our world and watching our world. Am I right on that?
You're close. You're real close. We are all beings of light, all of us. The reason you're not 100% connected to that is not every human being is using their innate abilities. They're not fully open psychic, okay? So you're not you're not interrelating with it right now, okay? They are still in the third and fourth dimension with us. They are in the same space as us. They exist with us, physically with us. There are beings that are interdimensional that work with them, like Talata, okay? And there are beings, actual entities that I've seen that look like light. They are light beings. One of them is corporeal like us, but you'd swear they were an angel. You'd swear you could see right through them, okay?
Wow.
They're incredibly advanced. The ETs that we deal with are, I want to say probably maybe 5 or 6 eons ahead of us. They're that advanced. They're wide open psychic. They communicate that way. All their technology is geared to go that way. And the reason interdimensional beings work with them is they advanced to the point that they were starting to be able to work through dimensional space, and they met up with them. And it became a cooperative, enjoyed relationship at that point.
Okay.
How long they have to go before they interdimensionally jump as their evolution is, I don't know.
Okay, so are we talking about that they're working with the grays that you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay, and looking over planet Earth. Now,
right.
Before we get to the Earth thing and the catastrophe and all that, because that's the end of it, is I have this. This was absolutely mind-blowing, but okay, let's talk about the female system of this, of having a child or a baby, and why. Okay, tell me what they do and why they did it, and what happened to you the first time. And the second time, when you weren't supposed to, at 50, have a child, and then you actually met them. So, If you can remember everything I'm saying right now, I'm hoping that you can, but maybe can we get a little bit into that, because
sure,
people freak out about that. And I just found it fascinating. So I'm going to let you talk.
Okay, well, we breed back and forth with them. They are us, we are them. We have the same DNA. They are our progenitors. They put us here. They are our parents, okay? Generational parents. Gamma radiation in space breaks down your genome. It derazes your DNA. And you and I and everybody on this planet are going through that because our magnetosphere is down and we're taking on heavier and heavier doses of it. It's causing more cancer, autism, it's causing mental disorders, heart problems, across the board, okay? So they are bolstering us back up. They have the same problem. They're taking the same gamma we are right now because they work with us. They're in the same solar system with us, sometimes a lot, and they're in the same galaxy with us. The whole galaxy is having issues right now with the current sheet that's going through it. So it's better to widen your genome. It's better to add DNA back into it instead of us breeding back and forth, even though we spread our genes far and wide. When your DNA starts going, it's better to have something come in to strengthen it, okay? And so they've decided to breed back with us, and that's what's going on. Okay,
right.
Now, when I was 17, I was sat down and asked if I would agree to have a child. And there was somebody they had in mind with me, and our genome would produce a much stronger individual.
Right.
And the chances of him being very hybridized were going to be an issue. In other words, he wasn't going to live on Earth. He would probably have to live with them, and would I be okay with that? And I agreed to it. I was not inseminated. I was actually,
Your egg.
Yeah, I opted to go through the natural process of getting pregnant. Okay. I was almost right at the 5-month mark. He was moving around. I could feel him. I could mentally communicate with him. Very strong child. I named him Lloyd, Lloyd.
Yes, you did. Okay.
Yeah,
You named all of them.
Yes,
actually.
I did. Yes, I did. Lloyd Alexander and my beautiful little girl, and I love her so much, and her name is Sophia. Okay.
Right.
I nicknamed her Sophie. Okay. So I had her at 58, and that's the one that I did not agree to. I didn't even know they were going to do it because I was going through I was in dialysis.
Yes, and you were not supposed to get pregnant.
No.
They could not figure out why you were pregnant at 58.
Yeah, my doctor freaked out because I had pre-op.
Yes.
And they did all the pre-op testing. And she called me hysterical. She said, "Did you know you were pregnant?"
I know.
Huh? And she said, "No, really, you're a good 4.5, almost 5 months pregnant." I was like, "Really?" And she's like, "Yes." And I said, "No way." And she said, "Yes, wait, we did the test twice on you. You don't realize, but we did the test twice. You're pregnant." And she said, "I don't know what we're going to do. You can't have your surgery." Now I'm freaking out by now, okay? I said, "Will you give me 24 hours to make a decision?" And she said, "Sure."
That's right.
I want one more bloody test. She said, "Okay," at the end of 24. And she said, "Okay." And she said, "If you have an abortion, it's still going to show you're pregnant." I said, "Don't worry about it." I said, "Something's up with this." So I contacted Talata right away, okay?
That's right.
I freaked out. I was like, "Look, I'm not going without this transplant. You can just hang it up." And I said, "I love y'all, but no. Fix it now. Now, fix it now."
Yeah.
So I went somewhere I could be picked up quietly because I was living in a town where there's lots of people around. The weather was really, really damn bad. And so they fixed it for me.
Yeah, and I can verify this. Dolly did send me her medical records. Dolly has a lot of corroborating evidence. She's got other witnesses who've seen this stuff. I've seen the craft. She has photographic evidence. We did put some of this in the book, but some of it involved moving films, which of course you can't put in a book unless it's a Harry Potter book.
Yeah.
Not that advanced yet. But yeah, I just wanted to point out that Dolly has an enormous amount of evidence.
Yeah, they actually gave her permission at that time that she could actually do this. Also, I wanted to talk about, they wanted to be seen, or they come down and they let us see them, okay? And what reason is that? I mean, that's when do you understand you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I know
Preston?
exactly what you're saying. I can hear your mind talking.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
It's going 100 miles an hour here because
yes, it is.
You know.
Okay, I got it.
Okay, good.
Okay. Our governments of the world are all banded together already. They are one entity. You don't realize that, but they are. And it's an alt government and it's worldwide. ETs is not really happy with them. They tried to speak with them and have a talk with them during Eisenhower, okay? They knew Truman as well, but they never met with Truman. They met with Eisenhower, and they realized instantly that this is a no-go. The minute they developed nuclear bombs and started proliferating the violence that encouraged, they went, no, done deal. They looked at this planet a different way, okay? They were hoping that we had evolved much more than we have, but we did not. So they decided that there were still plenty of people, because they can read us easily, okay? They hear what we're thinking. They knew that there were enough people on this planet that gave them hope, and they decided to take this grassroots, okay? So instead of using the governments of the world to communicate to us and give their message and have détente, okay, a spirit of communication between us, they started deciding to be covert about it, and they started showing themselves to us.
That's
okay?
right.
And they have a million different ways to do that. They're also taking us on board and contacting everybody, because they do work with us, they do heal us. We've got enough genetic damage going on right now that we have to be worked with through this. They're trying to bolster us up until the other side of this CME that's going to take us out, our grids, okay? Not us, the grid. And that's how they're handling it. They can't completely interfere with us. They can't tell the governments of the world what to do. We were put here to in our own destiny, in our own karmic destiny, to decide who we were, what we were, and why we were. And as long as the totality of the people are in control and their consciousness has reached a level of violence that is unbelievably bad, they're not even going to touch that. It's like asking yourself, walk in a room with 80,000 people who are sick and see what happens to you, okay? They're not going there. Right. So those of us who are not sick with this problem and can wake up and can hear them, that's who they're going after. They want you to wake up. They want you to become conscious of everything. They want you to use your innate ability. They want your psychic door open in your head so you can hear them.
Okay, us as a society, let's start getting into this, because Preston, really quick, I know that Dolly is going into real specific stuff that's not in your book. I mean, I know that you know about it, but you can read it. It's so clear that it's so understanding. Talking with Dolly, she's going right into like, wow, I mean, like the meat of it. Right, Preston?
Yeah. Got to remember, Dolly's a fully conscious contactee, has not used hypnosis, has no fear surrounding her experiences. She's had decades of living and working with the ETs. Writing this book was extremely challenging because it was simply, God. I mean, there's no way to fit it all in.
No.
Every time we do one of these interviews, I learn something new. Sometimes I'm like mad. I'm like, hey, I could have put that in the book. Why didn't you tell me? She's like, I tried. I tried to tell you all I could.
Yeah.
But it's
well, you did a fabulous.
A lot.
You did a fabulous job. I mean, because of course I'm, since I read the book, I'm learning all this new stuff too with her. But Dolly, I wanted to move into because there's just so much here, and I'm sure people are going to have a lot of questions, but they'll get that in Preston's book. They really will. Now we're going to talk about unconsciousness of the humans that are on the planet, which I agree with, and the concerns of these beings, of us, our planet becoming a catastrophe, which right. You believe, or some, and maybe I'm wrong on this, that this is actually going to happen to our planet.
It's absolutely going to happen to our planet. There's no turning back at this point. The governments of this planet know it, and they're trying to bug out. They want to go down underground. They have already got all that established. They're ready to go underground. They know it's coming imminently, and everybody who isn't going with them, other than the 1% of them, are optional.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? Okay. So, now, when you talk about unconsciousness, the only unconsciousness that exists on this planet is your physical mind being cut off
Right.
from your consciousness, who
Sure.
you really are. Okay. And you've got a pineal gland in your head that is structurally the same exact organ as your eyeball. The only thing it doesn't have in there is a lens. And it is in the part of the brain that hooks up psychically. And when you say psychic, let's use a different terminology. I want everybody to start thinking this way. You're transmitting. You have the ability to send messages through electrical impulses in your brain out. And they have the same ability, and they transmit and they receive. This is your transmitter receiver, but it's not just to them, it's to your physical mind as well. Okay?
Right.
And until your physical mind can hear your higher consciousness, you are a victim of that circumstance, because it can turn you to the wrong side, to like the dark side. It can make you negative. It can make you afraid. It can make you feel cut off. It can make you violent. It can make you, all kinds of things. And you're witnessing that. Human beings have been cut off from using their abilities for a long time. And this is exactly what happened to Unicron. Okay?
Yes.
Now, there are people who are actually waking up on their own. They're genetically coded to wake up. They're also starting to hear what's going on. And it's because ET's been broadcasting this for 50 years. They've been begging everybody, come on, here, listen,
Right.
listen, get it. And
Right.
that's what's going on. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so now when this catastrophe happens, explain a little bit about why, what's coming.
Okay. We live in a solar system inside a galaxy. And inside that galaxy in our solar system is electromagnetic currents. And the way our solar systems operate is they have polarity. Okay, your sun has polarity, the planets have polarity with magnets, it creates a magnetosphere around it so that life can flourish and whatever, depending on the elements on that planet and how that planet operates, its size, how close or far away from the sun it is, whatever. We live in a system that promotes life, okay? We did not come from Earth, we came from Mars. We lived on Mars. That was our first place. We had a cataclysm then, about 280 million years ago, and it put Mars, it killed it. It totally, Mars, just forget it. It's a dead planet, dead core, no magnetism, boom, gone. We slid into the catbird seat. This planet was had less gravity. The dinosaurs were flourishing, and reptilians lived with them. Some, they were all together here. They looked at the situation afterwards, after they vacated everybody off of Mars and got them out. They decided to bring humankind back. But Earth has a unique situation. Our planet took a hit when Mars got hit and destroyed. We have our core is not homogeneous. In other words, it has bulges of magma in it, and it causes us to wobble.
Right.
We also tilt slightly, okay? That's one of the things that kind of actually gave us our seasons, okay? That and the moon. They work together to give us beautiful seasons. And they thought, this is an optimal situation. Let's try this. They knew that there would be cycles with this issue. And ours are 12,000 years, 6,000 years. There's one that's 8,000 years and 4,000. Two of them are significant right now. They're occurring. We have a 12,000 year cycle and a 6,000 year cycle. The 6,000 years is what they call the Noah event, okay? Where
Right.
we wobble to the point that we start flopping over and the water covers the entire planet. After
Exactly.
the wind slices through everything. During Noah's time, we were taken off the earth then. You ever wonder what the ark was really for? What they were trying to describe? They were getting everybody off, including the animals, okay? Bye-bye, see ya. Ooh.
Right.
Okay? It's happening again, but now we've got another one on top of it. It's 12,000 year cycle where we supernova. Not supernova, sorry, micronova, okay? We're shooting CMEs right now like crazy because we're going into solar maximum. The sun cycles itself. It already changed its polarity, which signaled all the planets in our system to change theirs. Some of the planets change faster than others. Earth is taking its sweet time, and we're almost at the apex of that change. That means our magnetosphere is down, probably almost 45, somewhere between 45 and 47%. That's significant. That means whatever that sun puts out, we take huge, horrible hits. It's brewing, okay? And
Right.
we've got one coming.
And that's coming from the
In
sun.
about 2.5 years.
Yeah,
okay?
and from the sun.
Yeah.
We're already
There-
having Okay.
There's
Yeah.
good science for this, by the way. I mean, we know about this for a long time, since the Carrington event of 1859. Scientists have been looking into this. The Carrington event is when the sun did release a coronal mass ejection, which knocked out our newly emerging telegraph system. And if you look into the science of this, it is there. Our sun is ejecting coronal mass ejections, and
I'll
it's
give you the
wreaking havoc.
I'll give you the most recent one that was significant. Elon Musk sent a bunch of satellites up into space about 3-4 months ago, correct? How many of them didn't make it? How many of them blew up in midair? That's because they hit the energy coming in from a coronal mass ejection that wiped them out in the air right in front of us. That's bad. That means the sun is really ramping at this point. It put everybody on edge. We're also throwing CMEs right now that they can't explain why they're popping off like they are. This is making the situation a little bit more interesting, okay? So we're gonna have a CME that's in the X class. It's going to take our planet back to the Stone Age. Every component, electrical, every wire, every digital, anything, all of it is going to be unusable. It's going to kill our grid worldwide.
Exactly, right.
Okay, so we're gonna all be Flintstoning it.
Floods, and you're going to be talking about floods, earthquakes.
That will ramp up after that. It's ramping now, but it's gonna get seriously worse after that also.
Right.
And so the idea is not to live in a place on this planet where you're vulnerable.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So when this happens, we're going to be taken up as kind of like in the Bible, but everybody, not bad people, not good people, not, believers only, and which, we also...
What they're looking for is for you to open your mind and become psychic. You turn it on. Because once you do that, you'll hear the truth. The universe will start talking to you, they can talk to you, and it will alter you in minutes. Your whole way of thinking is going to shockingly shock you, and you will put things down that you're employing now and give it up because you see the truth. There's no way in your mind you would not understand what's going on, either geophysically or mentally or spiritually or mature. You will grow up real fast. That's what they're looking for. If you accomplish that, or if you're even on your way to it, if you're getting there, they will take you. Has nothing to do with whether you're good or bad. The worst person on this planet can spiritually wake up, can get this running and become psychic, and it'll alter them just like that.
Okay.
Their brain will change.
So that's pretty much when they take those people up. It's kind of interesting because they talk about that in the Bible, but then they also talk that, you have to be Christian to do this. And
well, it's just the Christians saying that you have to accept the truth. Jesus said, I'm the truth, the light, and the way. And he meant hooking up to the Holy Spirit, which is your ability in your head to hear the universe talking.
Right.
Okay? That's all that is. That's their immature, unknowledged way of describing it.
Right.
So,
exactly. So, so I think we got through most of the book because I know that this is kind of the ending of the book itself. And we, Preston and I talked about it quite extensively. You actually have gone after Preston and I was talking, you kind of went into, whoa. I mean, I'm just like going, whoa. So I think what we'll do is we're going to leave it at that because that's the end of the book. Okay. And, we are going to say that we are so grateful here for you to come out of your shell and to talk about this, which I know that you did not want to do. And I just want to say I'm so grateful that you have done this, and also grateful to Preston for doing this, because listening to you talk, I really don't know how he put it into a book where you can totally understand it.
He's a smart guy.
Oh
really
my God.
Unbelievable attention to detail, yeah.
Okay.
Talata was wise when he told me to go find it. So
Yeah. So Preston, come back on again.
I'm here. Yeah.
Come back on. Talk, Preston.
Yeah.
I gotta have you on there because, just before we close a minute here, the book was very, very, very understandable for me. I believed in every single bit about it. I was just absolutely ecstatic about it. And you had a way of being able to, I know Dolly was on, but to be able to have, let's just say, a regular person that wants to read the book is going to understand it. Okay?
Yeah, I think that's what I really wanted to do, is make it accessible, understandable. Dolly is not here to convince people. It's up to everyone else, each individual person, to find their pathway to the truth. But she, I think, was unhappy with how the contact experience was being represented, and
Yeah.
really a lot of fear surrounding it, which I was too. And I was so delighted to meet Dolly because, yes, I've interviewed a lot of people, but her story is easily the most extensive I've, ever researched or even really read about. And I thought her story was so important, and I really want people to know about it. And I was just such an honor and a delight to be able to, be given this opportunity.
Well, it's absolutely amazing to me because I've done quite a lot of people on UFOs lately, and and let's use the word, sorry, Dolly, abducted. And it took me into a really weird space about it. And I actually couldn't go to my craft anymore and do what I normally do. It was black after I, talked to these people who've had probing and, all of this stuff. So when I was reading that book, I was able to go back to my craft, which is great. And so I just want to say thank you so much. and thank God Dolly was able to get back from her doctor's office and get on for a little bit. And I just want to say I really appreciate it. Everybody out there, I just want to say, I really want you to read this book. I know that we talked about so much that it seems kind of like, okay, really, really crazy, maybe, no. I've been doing this with years and been in contact. You really got to read this book to really get a good understanding of the truth of it. So I just want to say thank you again to both Preston.
You're very welcome.
And Dolly for being on here. And so we'll shoot this off and we will say goodbye.
We'll say ciao ciao.
We will say ciao ciao. And
Ciao ciao. Oh, cool. I like that.
yeah, and you gotta watch it, okay? You gotta buy the book. Here we go again, one more time. Symmetry, a true UFO adventure by Preston Dennett on Amazon. Okay, that's where you get the book. I got it right here. Can you see all the pages and everything else? Look, looks like I've been reading it for 20 years. Okay, all right. So we'll say goodbye and thank you so much for watching.
Bye bye.
But don't say goodbye. Stay there.